Okay, just to connect my presentation with the previous presenter, I completely agree on the fact that the synergies between business and universities need to be created, but in terms of translating what the academia is teaching the students and what the academia is researching into the possibility of those findings being applicable in practice. And that's something that we see in law and in economics, that it's a big challenge, meaning we're teaching kids something that they don't know how to translate in practice. So when I started to create this presentation and thinking about the new social roles of universities, I want to start with initial thought on, I don't believe that what universities should do today is something significantly different than what universities started doing in 12th century when they were created. I just think that we forgot about the role of university in the society, and that we need to be reminded of it and renew the concept a bit because the times are different. So I don't think that we're creating a new role for the university. What we're creating is a reminder as to what we should do and how we should do it. Regarding the history of university, we tend to forget why it was created. So when universities were created, they were created with the need for protection in mind. Let me frame it like that. So that the thought and that the researchers and that the research that has been conducted is protected from the intervention of the state. That's why they got rights and they got obligations. But lately, we seem to be debating more as to how we should serve as the university to the businesses, or what is happening on the market, instead of leading the markets. So what I went and found was one of the most basic researches on the development of universities to show that as soon as the university was supported by public support and by laws that were protecting the thinkers, all of a sudden the manuscripts that were creating in Europe started rising exponentially, meaning that benefiting from this protection allowed the free thought to thrive, basically, to create a new way of structuring, actually, the thinking people in the society. What was happening is, in medieval Europe, they got reminded of Roman laws, right, and Roman thinking. So under that, those new structures, they started bringing back this idea of developing independent thought in a connected framework. Now, what I wanted you to think about here is the fact that historically the university was created to guide the society, to be protected from outside influences, and to have the ability and the freedom to think freely and create new theories and new impetus and lead the society. How many of you have been attending other conferences on higher education in the last year? Can you raise your hands just to see? So this is, okay, a few of you have been. I have been at some of them due to the third phase of my project, and the main debate was how to serve the business. Has anybody noticed that? The main debate on those conferences was how academics should change in order to serve the business. I am truly sorry, but we are supposed to be the free thinkers, and we're supposed to be the ones to guide the students into being the innovation on the market, being the leaders on the market, not training them like animals to follow the rules of the market, and we forgot that. So that's why I wanted to give you a historical overview of saying, hey, why were we created? We are not created to serve exclusively. Not saying that we're not serving the labor market, because we are. We are producing the labor force, but that is not the exclusive role of universities. So the relationship between academia and society is multifaceted. It has different aspects, and it has also different levels. One of them is connected with teaching, what we were already discussing before. So when you're teaching students, yes, of course, you're trying to incorporate them in the labor market, but you're trying also to create free thinkers. And that is something that is not the role of the university as the governance system, but that's the role of the individual professor. Repeatedly, through my practice, I get in my classes students who are not used to free thinking. I have to force them to answer questions. I have to force them to think on their own. What they're used to is being given articles or textbooks, memorizing them, reproducing that on the exam, and leaving the school. So they are quite often shocked when they come in my class and I say, you have to do the readings in advance, and then I discuss it with you, as I would discuss it with a peer. How many of you are working in that way, that they need to read the materials in advance and come and discuss those materials with you, either undergraduate level, either master's level. That is something that is absolutely indispensable today. Those kids are going to be facing a reality way different than we ever did when we came to the labor market. They need to create solutions, and simply following is not enough. So, okay, thank you. Thank you. So regarding the teaching, can you still hear me? Yes. Yeah, okay. Regarding the teaching activities, so you are professionally training them for some kind of high-level job, but also we need to educate them how to develop their personality. That doesn't mean with their mothers and fathers, but we need to educate them how to be the leaders of tomorrow. And that is way more than reading textbooks. If it would be about reading textbooks, they can do that at home. What they need is your guidance in terms of how to structure their thought and how to use the information they're provided with. This generation has all the information on the internet. They don't need us. Sad. But that's how it is. If it is for reproducing information and just putting in your exam something you read in textbook, we're unnecessary, completely. What we need to be able to do for them today is for them to develop structured critical thought, okay? So that is the role of the university, and it's not new. Once again, I want to repeat this. This is not something that the university should do in a new way. This has historically been like that. We just forgot about it. Considering sustainability, there's a big issue with sustainability because the professors themselves are not used to the new terms, to the methodology that is developing. Plus, sustainability is so fastly developing that I, as a professional in the field, am just grasping the new developments week by week, struggling with all the information that there is. And because of that, they need to be willing and able and ready to struggle with that information too. I can't teach them through a textbook what sustainability is, because in 3 days that is going to change. What I need to teach them is how to follow what is happening and critically think about what is happening on the market. That is the discussion that is the thing that I want you to take home. Is this a new role or something that we forgot about? It's not only about teaching and educating the students, it's also about the fact that if you're not working for a private university, how many of you is working for a private university? Because that is a core business. That is a core business with some particular cautelas next to it. But if you're working for a public university, you're paid by public money. You're serving the public. So the discussion of what your role is to serve the public what they need, which is not just highly educated workforce, but a thinking human being who is able to solve our societal issues. That's what we're being paid for. And that discussion has not entered the floor many times, that this is our role. Accountability and responsibility. There has been many academic articles and many conferences written, also concluded about that. We are key institutions in societal change. We're not supposed to be waiting for the governments to give us an order that we are supposed to change. So not accounting for the issues of climate change and sustainability, sorry, that's my profession, but honestly, in line with reality the way it is, forcing me still to teach microeconomics in terms of how do the businesses decide how much to produce. Well, they maximize profits and they minimize cost. That's not a way forward. You cannot be teaching kids that, and then they hit the job market, and their reality is what? People demanding them to solve resource scarcity. People demanding them to minimize CO2 emissions. Those kids are not taught on that right now at all. So we are the leaders. We are educating them and pushing them then on the market. Also, it's not only about the cultural transformation, it's about the economic one, the social one, the political one. They steam from universities. We're not followers. When did we become followers? And it's a large debate on the EU level also about whether the academia right now is following or leading. Because what we seem to be dealing with is a lot of following. The current reality, the way it is, and this is not just in EU, we're vocal about it, but this is what's happening in every single country in the world. The issue of biodiversity, the climate emergency, the resource scarcity, the pollution, the plastics. Some of us see it more, some of us less. But the result is that the way we're doing business right now in linear way cannot continue. Who's going to do the change? The government with 3 laws? It's the universities, it's the typical consumer, it's the students, it's the professors. And that's why I think that we should be reminded of the fact that since universities were created, they were drivers for change and not followers. What helps us towards that change are the international agreements. Not because us as professors we would go and say EU said. Okay. EU said. okay, you should change and you should incorporate sustainability. No, but simply saying that because we do have an UN agreement and the EU Green Deal, national states are enacting also laws. Because they're enacting those laws, education cannot not be touched and left the way it is. It's a systemic change that's going to touch education too. We have a lot of education consortiums that are helping. Private market asks for it. So what we were hearing from the previous presenter, there is a demand for things to be done differently, because what we're sending out on the private market as labor is not qualified enough to start working at the level they're supposed to start working with. And I said that the facilitator can also be academic freedom, and then I mentioned academic freedom also as an inhibitor of this change. Academic freedom is great once you have a dynamic individual who is driven by personal passions towards a change. So it's beautiful. It allows you a scope of margin when you can change things inside your own profession and go towards new developments. Academic freedom also can be a significant inhibitor of change. Why do I say that? Because you cannot mandate incorporation, for instance, of SDGs to a certain professor. So it's his complete personal opinion at this point whether he does so or not. What does that mean for a factual change? If somebody has been teaching the same curriculum for 20 years and he's not passionate about the topic, then probably the topic won't enter the curriculum. And that's the way it is. And it's like that globally. Inhibitor is also the lack of awareness and knowledge of professors. So for instance, if you're teaching sustainable business law, of course you have knowledge on it. If you're teaching microeconomics, probably very limited. If you have limited knowledge, you cannot disseminate it further. The lack of entrepreneurial attitude. We're not facing it only in academia, but we're facing it in public procurement too. Meaning that we used to do things in a structured way, and we're really reluctant to go away from that structure. Too much of a focus on a singular discipline. So historically, if you're an economist, you're going to stay an economist. If you're an engineer, you're going to stay an engineer. Sustainability demands way more than that. It demands you to understand the legal frameworks, it demands you to understand the economic implications, and it demands you to understand the social implications. We're not used to doing that. And what this forum is helping with a bit is there is no global sharing of knowledge. So the knowledge is really limited, fragmented, and we're not working together. So that is inhibiting the change of inhibiting basically the role of universities to be the change leader. Now, summing up and finalizing really fastly is a statement of the Mayo Clinic on the ultimate goal. They're talking in terms of medical science, but this can literally be applied to anything. So they say the moral and societal duty of an academic healthcare provider, but it literally can apply to anything, is to advance science, primary role, improve the care of the patients, and share knowledge. Once again, advance science, not following what the businesses are doing, advancing what we know we can do. I just want to have one final remark. You need to be passionate about what you're doing, and you need to serve more than just the students and more than just the labor market. There is a higher good to be served, and I think we need to be reminded of that a bit more often. So, thank you.